or chatters are solely the opinions and the original source of expressed listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hello and welcome to Platos Cave on Revolution Radio for Revolution.radio, broadcasting from the deep, dark continent of Australia. Yes, that's right. It's real. It's a thing. It's a land. It floats. It's all good. This is listener-funded radio. So if you can spare a dime or two, please donate. Any kind of currency is good, including crypto. And it's really easy to do. Just go to the homepage, revolution.radio, and there's this. You just follow the bouncing ball. It's all good. Now you can listen on any platform, any app. Pretty much, we are everywhere. I think rumbling, twittering, YouTubing, TikToking. We are all over the place. And a special shout out to our shorts watchers. Come and check out the real thing. The shorts, if you like the shorts, you might like the whole long show format as well. Actually, I'll talk to that in a second after the intro. Now, you can also listen at home on a Grace Tabletop Digital Radio. That's right. Just put your feet up and enjoy the smooth sounds of Revolution Radio, smoothing the air around you. That's right. Another good piece of news, or another piece of good news, or another news piece of good, is the fact that the archives are free completely. You pay nothing. Just go in there, enjoy the content, and listen as much as you like. Now, before we start broadcasting at Chinanga, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land from which we broadcast, and for Dave, that's
the Dark and Jung.
Whoa, nice. You come through loud and clear, my friend. For myself, of course, it's the Daruk people. Yes, it is. The Daruk people in sunny Pamel Way. And we would like to express our thanks and respects to the elders past, present, and future. Thank you very much. Had a show request, Dave, for the first time in the comments.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Person said they would like. They wanted to talk about, they wanted us to talk about the dark side of the moon. So I'm gonna do a bit more research, and we're gonna talk about this on a Thursday on Platos Cave. The dark side of the it is the dark side of the moon and the surrounding conspiracy. So if you're interested in that, tune in on Thursday, same time as now, and we'll talk about the dark side of the moon. So thank you so much for requesting that. That's awesome. I had a few comments. They were great. And again, thanks so much for viewing our content. Do try the long form as well. You might find it enjoyable. Now, Dave, it's...
Did you know there's the dark side of the Yellow Brick Road?
Yes, because I painted it. You know, when I was younger, I was...
No, the dark side of the Yellow Brick Road is when you watch the Wizard of Oz and you put the Dark Side of the Moon album on and put the needle down onto the record, old school, exactly when the lion roars, and then the whole thing is synchronized.
That's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
True.
You can actually find it now. It's called The Dark Side of the Yellow Brick Road, and it's on YouTube. So watch it after our video.
Yeah, don't not now. later.
Actually, I'll do. I'll put the link in the description below. There you go.
Well, look at you doing things. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
It has been an interesting few days, as they always are. Not much positive has happened. I would like to look at some positive news. Just for once, I'd like to say, hey, this has been such a great thing as world peace, or, someone invented, I don't know, calorie-free chocolate that tastes just like the real thing.
Just
Something,
like getting punched
anything.
in the nuts.
Just like that. But we are not having any of that. There's just too much going on. I mean, shootings and people dying. And I look at all the news outlets, and it's depressing. YouTube is a little bit better. Some of the stuff is quite funny, which is great, but everything else is just awful. In the States, shutdown looms for you guys. And the meetings that have been held thus far have produced no deal. There was a shooting in a Mormon church, which was apparently perpetrated by a MAGA supporter, which is, of course, horrific. But I think the narrative that the violence is only on the left is a complete fiction. Violence is universal, and it's unacceptable, irrespective of your political persuasion. Violence is just not something that we should give in to, right?
Well, in Australia, Mickey, we're seeing knife stabbings. There was a person riding a bicycle that stabbed a dude in the head as he went by.
Yeah.
There was no reason for it. What are the children, Mickey, that stole that car and ran over a pedestrian in Melbourne? Children?
Yeah. Look,
I don't know what's going on. I honestly don't know what's... I'm going to just put it out there that my immediate thought was, do you know where your children are?
Yeah.
You, as a parent, and you have children, I probably not. You probably don't know exactly where they are, but you should be discerning about who they're hanging around with. Because the aggregate IQ of a group of people is the lowest IQ of the lowest person there in the group, divided by the quantity of people in that group. And that's the IQ of the group. You can stand on your head. I like your expression, Mickey. You can stand on your head. You can deny it all you like. That's a nice, easy math rule for a group of people and what the possibilities are that they're going to go up to mischief. If you have a really high IQ group of people, and there could be 100 of them, and they're going to be less probable to do something bad because the average group, like the lowest by the quantity as an equation, still brings them up to at least respectable. It disturbs me greatly, Mickey. It's a mathematical thing.
The mathematical expression that Dave is looking for here is the IQ of the mob is inversely proportionate to the number of people in it. So what we're seeing is the larger the group, the mob, the crowd, the stampede, if you will, the lower the collective aggregate IQ. And that's a fact.
Yeah.
And you see this mob mentality play out all the time. Now, the way Dave put it, he's right. I mean, even small groups are subject to this. That's why you have, I guess, followers or people that just let it happen, if you will, rather than actively preventing. That's a bad thing. But the larger the group, the less likely it is that you will see individual behavior. It's just
right.
The nature of us.
Totally.
It's just who we are. Funnily enough, near my house, I don't know if I've spoken about this on air. I don't think I have, but I want to say a month ago, and this is about, probably 400 meters, 500 meters from my house. There's a tennis court, right? And a kid, a 19-year-old, I think he died there. Now, how did this happen? He was visiting his sister's boyfriend and his sister. The sister was estranged. The boyfriend, it turns out, was some kind of drug dealer. And as the brother of the girl who was dating the drug dealer was leaving the house after visiting her, there were two kids, and I mean kids like 16, 17-year-olds, waiting in the bushes, stabbing him, mistakenly thinking that it's the drug dealer. Right. Of course it wasn't. So he staggers to his car, manages to drive off. I think it was probably 100 meters, and then he died near the tennis courts.
He was
And
21
that's
years old.
where I exercise.
Mhm.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. So when I exercise at night, I don't usually go at night because no cars, right? And it's nice. It's very green. It's a lot of it's a little creek that runs through it. Like I said, a tennis court. These are all single family homes along that route. But that's why I do my run or my walk, my jog, whatever. And around that time as well. Obviously, I didn't do it that night, but it does make you think, right? Mistaken identity, and he's gone obviously now. So
That's right.
this kind of stuff is all around us. This violence, this mindless violence. Now, this was a paid hit.
That's
These
right.
16-year-olds, they were given
That's
money
what the story
to
said, yeah.
do this. So,
But mistaken
and
identity.
again, it was a drug.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've seen
Correct.
the same thing where the paid assailants targeted the wrong house or the wrong person. You know, that isn't it isn't a job that is has a set of criteria that would, you know, make them totally trustworthy people. I think that you're already past that realm. That's no longer a tick box on the criteria for the role. And in fact, there was something I was seeing just the other day, and it was a paid hitman. I don't know what country it was. I think it might have. It wasn't Australia, and it wasn't the US. There was a guy who had a bounty on his head for I think 5 million, and then someone had said that they would do it, and then they contracted someone for 250,000, and then that person subcontracted another person to do it for 100,000, until it got to 90, and the guy at 90, what he did, he actually spoke to the guy he was meant to take out, went to the police, they faked his death, and they tried to get all the other people in trouble for perpetrating it. And the only person he had in trouble was the guy that wouldn't do it. That's crazy, right? And he didn't do it.
Is it?
Well, no,
Yeah,
not really. So it wasn't anyone from the top down. It was just the frontline guy that got in trouble. And in fact, he was the one that didn't want to do it. So, and they go, "Oh, you accepted the work." Yeah, I accepted the work for the money, but then I didn't take the money or the work and saved the guy's life. So, you know, there's times to, I like this saying, there's times to wearing cape and there's times not to.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It is interesting though. I mean, is this violence that we're seeing here a direct a result? And I'm just spitballing here.
Yeah, go on.
Of our generation's lack of wars. I mean, for the most part, we haven't been. Well, we haven't been like I'm talking about like mostly in Western countries, not all Western countries naturally,
80,000.
but we haven't been involved in any world wars, right?
That's right.
No world wars. I mean,
80 years.
There's always conflict, and people from all over the world are part of conflict zones, escaping them, you know, refugees, etc. And the funny thing is this, though, I don't think, unless it's like a targeted attack by some kind of militia group, you don't see a single crazy person, or maybe not crazy, going out to massacre people in conflict zones. You just don't see it. There's no one that goes around. They're not shooting up schools. Does it mean that the people that are need to satisfy those aggressive urges are already taken care of by being in the military? Maybe. I can tell you that after World War II, there were very few I'm talking about the 50s now, right? There are very few what we now call mass shootings, if any, right? And was it just we were just fed up with violence and war? I know that Hollywood, not just Hollywood, but the nascent German movie industry. Any movie industry in any country at that time in the late 40s and 50s and even toward the mid 60s, they were all comedies. Okay, there were a lot of comedy movies, except America. America had a lot of war movies, celebrating the success and the heroism of their people, etc. But in the European countries and Asian countries, you would find a lot of comedies, lighthearted, fair. They just wouldn't make any war movies en masse. It just wouldn't. It's too much. Maybe it was too real for the people, right?
That's a very good point, Mickey, that you make. Yes. So, to highlight your point, were they all warred out?
Probably.
If you can, relax away from a war footing, you show plenty of war movies, but then you don't do any war. I suppose it's kind of a way to relax society again. I know that the heartfelt effort that people were putting into building their country back up again, post-war, how proud people were. The essence of I suppose winning to a certain extent.
Yeah. Sure.
Was there, which I suppose all the people that came back were all the survivors and were able to want to not see it again.
Yeah.
If there's any way to put it, I think that's got to be part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. I think, it's like if you're a chef, for example, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you might still cook for your family, but you probably wouldn't want to cook for a whole bunch of people. You probably cook for your family. That's okay. Mm-hmm. But if you do something for a living, or if you have lived something for a very long time, chances are you're not really interested in doing it in your free time or after the event. My uncle, or I should say my great uncle, my grandmother's brother, and he spent, I think, 15 or 16 years in Siberia as a survivor of the 6th Army in Stalingrad, mm-hmm. in a Russian gulag. He was for 16 years. He came back. He actually made it back, and he never spoke about it.
Wow.
Didn't mention the war ever. Not mm-hmm. once did he speak about anything. Mm-hmm. My grandfather, who was wounded quite gravely in Breslau, spoke about that to me when he had a few drinks. I was 10, maybe 9. Mm-hmm. I had a few drinks in him, and he started talking about it. And he would celebrate his birthday. And it's not your birthday. I think I told you the story, right? Mm-hmm. And he said, "No, it's my birthday. This is when I was shot." And he lost his right arm in that shooting in Breslau. It was on the Eastern Front. Mm-hmm. And funnily enough, so the Russians had already put him into the pit and put the lie over him, but his eyelids flattened. So they pulled him out and then nursed him back to health, and then sent him off. But the funny thing is this: I don't know if it's funny in a humorous sense, but it's certainly funny in a disquieting sense, if you will. Mm-hmm. 40 years exactly to the day that he lost his right arm, he died. 40 years exactly, right?
Yeah.
To the day, and that he celebrated that day when he was shot and lived as his new birthday. So, look, I think people had a feel of violence don't really want to talk about it or see it or mm-hmm. be involved in it, and especially if that violence was very close up and up close and personal. Mm-hmm. I think. In fact, the further removed you are, mm-hmm. the more likely it is that you get over it quickly.
Yeah.
Like if you're a push button officer or something, you know what I mean? Or even a fighter pilot or bomber pilot or whatever the case may be. And if there's distance between you and death, and then it's easier to overcome in many ways, I think.
Yeah, that's true.
It's the proximity.
That's true.
To death.
That's so true.
Yeah.
I was just a tiler. I was just tiling.
Yeah.
Or I'm just the electrician. Yeah. I didn't do anything terribly. I played in the band, right? Yeah.
I just did the railway schedules. That's all I did. The schedules.
So I didn't go there. I nearly went there.
No, you should go there. You should always go there. Now, but interestingly enough, that's all there is to mention. What we've seen, though, we've seen Putin has stepped up his war effort, and
drones
Donald Trump
across the
hasn't
whole
done anything.
of Europe.
Oh, well, actually, he has now, I think, look, I don't want to get the number wrong, but I probably will. I think he has now breached the airspace of 6 or 7 European countries, probing with missiles, with drones, with fighter planes.
Yes.
So that has happened. And he has also stepped up. I think the recent attack had something in the vicinity of 600 or 700 drones he killed all across the Ukraine. Apparently, it's quite. It was quite the attack recently. So he's really doubling down,
his
right?
Shipping container arrived.
Clearly, that something happened, right?
His steamer order.
And Trump, I guess, in agreement with Netanyahu, came up with a peace plan without ever consulting the Palestinians. And we know now for a fact that Netanyahu shipped suitcases of money into Gaza to prop up Hamas. Now you ask yourself, why would he do that? Well, he did it to divide the Palestinian people. So you've got two major power blocks within the Palestinian people. You've got Hamas, which is very militant, which is fighting back. You can call them a terrorist organization. You can call them freedom fighters. It's really a matter of perspective and where you stand. They are what they are. But then you also have the Palestinian Authority, which kind of sort of is the organization that grew out of the PLO. Now, if you don't remember any of that, that's fine. That was back in the 90s, so you probably weren't born then, so it's all good. But what that means is that he was propping up Hamas, the militant faction, if you will, in favor of the Palestinian Authority, who's much more moderate, right? So they're not really interested in all this terror and fighting and so forth, right? They're really not. They're looking for a peaceful solution, which is interesting. But in Netanyahu's mind, if he could show the world that Hamas was a danger, it would leave him free to do whatever he wanted, really, in Gaza to get rid of Hamas. And guess what? That's exactly where we are. Okay, but do remember, it was Benjamin Netanyahu that propped them up with literally suitcases full of money. Okay, that he let be delivered into Gaza. He let it through. Okay, so just to be clear,
Mackie, the history of the universes for both Marvel and what's the other one? Do you know what?
DC?
Yeah, they let the enemy get away, so they have someone to fight.
Well, there's that.
If you don't have a common enemy, what have you got? You've got nothing.
Well, that's it.
So and who are you? And there was an animated feature with this in it. This whole premise, where you let the hero actually disappears, and then the enemy becomes the hero because he doesn't have anyone to fight anymore. So he kind of relaxes into hero status. Oh, it's really weird.
No. What you're saying is 1,000% accurate, and I explain. What you've just described is pretty much the modus operandi for any authoritarian, or let's call it a country that is dominated by the military-industrial complex. It doesn't matter. It happens to be America at the moment for us, but a country like that needs an enemy, and this is really something that came out beautifully in 1984. Right? It doesn't matter who you're fighting as long as you're fighting someone. And it's the endless war. And I never forget. Yeah, and I never forget when they declared the war on terror. Now, before they declared the war on terror, they had never declared the war on an idea or on an ideology.
War on drugs.
Never. Yeah, well, the war on drugs actually came after. Sorry. Actually, it was similar. It was a similar time frame, but the war on drugs, you can understand. The war on terror means nothing.
That's right.
Because you're declaring war against the person, and it's also a war that will never end. Before that, you declare war against the country, this, that, and the other. And I remember people in the press talking about it, because you can't declare war on an abstract term, which is what terror is really, right?
On an idea.
And I remember and then it went on for 20 years.
Yeah.
The war on terror.
Uh-huh.
Remember?
I
After
still
9/11,
remember
I mean,
that. The chung sound, the war on terror. Chung. They had a whole sound effect for it.
Yeah. And all of a sudden, you're sitting there for 20 years. You're in this conflict, and first in Afghanistan, right? And then into Iraq, right?
Yep.
And then you sit there in Iraq, and other things happen, and then all of a sudden you've got ISIS, which you have to beat down as well. And you have military presence you have to maintain there, and it costs billions, and thousands are killed or injured. And you ask yourself, okay, what's actually going on here? Well, the answer is you started something that you couldn't finish. But the thing is this, Dave, nobody ever expected it to be finished. And I'll tell you why. These wars weren't started to defeat terrorism, because you can't.
That's right.
Okay, you might as well try to beat the ocean to death. Good luck to you. And what they're doing is they're keeping alive the military-industrial complex with a constant need for new weapons, ammunition, training, vehicles, etc., etc. So, because the thing is this, they have to come from somewhere. Someone makes them. So someone makes them, and someone obviously gets paid for it. So America, as we all know, is the single biggest weapons manufacturer and arms dealer in the world. Bar none. Bar none. There's trillions of dollars that were made. Trillions on the back of these conflicts, right? And America can't live without a conflict. Or at least in its present manifestation. In the way the economy is structured, America cannot survive a non-conflict zone in time. Because if you think about it, America has been at war constantly for at least 2 decades, maybe longer, right?
It was in the 90s.
If you think about it, it's smaller. Yeah, you think about the smaller conflicts here and there, right? Yeah. So this is almost unprecedented. The only thing that you can compare it to are the wars of the Roman Empire, or even the wars. Of the British Empire, to some extent, right? So now, of course, these were much more localized back in the 100 Years' War was only Europe, the 30 Years' War only Europe, but certainly the British and Roman Empire, the British Empire obviously was global. It was a global thing they did, and the Roman Empire spanned a good chunk of Europe, Asia, and Northern Africa. So it was quite extensive, and maybe we can't do without it. Maybe that's just who we are, right? And maybe that's why we are the only surviving ones, right?
The Matrix talks about that exactly. We made a world that was perfect, and you didn't like it.
People hated it.
That's right. So we had to do it again and create this one.
But you see,
that we need the friction. Well, the system needs the friction in order for that inherited position or posture they get from all of the lobbyists. Oh, we need to buy more weapons. Why? Oh, because we just sold a whole bunch to your enemy, and you're going to need better weapons to be able to beat those ones. And it starts from nothing and ends up this again, doesn't it? We could have had peace 100 times.
I want to put this to you. So, this is what I believe, deeply. The vast majority of the human race, if you give them good future, good life, comfortable life, a conflict-free life, they will thank you for it. Yes. I really do believe that.
I believe it too.
But there is a small percentage of psychopaths that can't live like that. And that's just the natural human order. I also believe, and this is important, that there's a cabal. I know that sounds crazy, but there's this parasitic group which has been controlling us for, oh my goodness, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of years. Okay, the human race has been controlled by these parasites, and the best way, obviously, to control us is to sow distrust, is to sow disunity, is to keep us apart, right? Divide and conquer. I believe very strongly that the confusion of the languages was a real event.
Yes.
A real event. And I believe further, and this is part of the hypothesis, if you're interested, come and listen on Sundays. We're going through that at the moment on Shiny Side Out. The original language that we all spoke, the original language was telepathy.
That's right.
And I'm not talking about thinking words at you. Not. This is a complete exchange of ideas, emotions, I guess sentiments as well, that you can transmit in perfect form. Because if the thing is this, right? If I say chair,
other ways,
right, and I say this to Dave, chair, and I've got an image or a notion in my head of what a chair is. Dave will have a notion in his head what a chair is, but it will differ from my notion of a chair. Whereas if I could think at Dave, my notion of a chair, he would know exactly what I mean.
That's right.
Do you know what I mean? No ambiguity. And one of the biggest problems that we have is language. And not just different languages, but language in general. Even if you speak the same language, there can be misunderstandings, confusion, misinterpretations, a different way of looking at the world.
And generational
a colleague of mine,
differences in thinking.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. In fact, words will change their meaning. Gay, I give you the word gay. In the 40s and 50s, it just meant very happy. That's all it meant. It meant very, very happy, right? Now there's a very different connotation to it. But a colleague of mine, and he actually heard it. I must have heard it twice. I will credit Andrew Percival, and I will also credit Basil Riley, because I only remember Basil Riley saying it. But what they said was this: we're divided by a common language, right? So, and I've seen this in meetings, Dave. I'm sure you have as well. People are talking, right? So one person has a point of view, and then another person will have a point of view, and they're just talking at each other, right? They're not really talking to each other. But then you say, stop. You're saying the same thing.
That's right.
And when they take a beat, take a breath, oh, hang on, oh, you're right. But they couldn't hear each other. They thought they were completely diametrically opposed, but no. No. They're actually saying the same thing, only using different terms, right? So language is a very inelegant method of communication. Very inelegant. Telepathy. And we now know telepathy is a thing because we shared with you guys our show cycle on telepathy. We know telepathy is a thing because there have been studies done. It has been proven in studies. And I'm happy to send anyone the information if they're interested. But they don't understand how or why it works. Only that it works. Right? Remember there was a study they pulled up and they tried to figure out how and why and which parts of the brain, etc., etc.
That's right.
Fascinating stuff. So telepathy is a thing, and not only that. I mean, obviously, both the Soviet Union and the United States in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and even to this day, I imagine, invested a lot of resources into studying these what we like to call PSI phenomena. Like the extrasensory perception phenomena, telekinesis,
MK Ultra,
telepathy. Yeah, completely. So it's a thing, right? And it is that division that we have that keeps us apart in language and understanding. And it's terrible, but I do believe it was put in place deliberately. I know how you think it might sound crazy or whatever. Well, this is Plato's Cave, so welcome.
But get comfortable.
Because we have the language confusion in mythology, not just for one culture.
The Hopis talked about it.
Yeah, that's right. The languages were confused all of a sudden. And to be honest with you, I think if you read the ancient texts, especially the Sumerian text where it says very specifically, this is what they say. He made himself heard, and then he would say something,
Mm-hmm.
and then they would have other conversations. But then again, he would make himself heard.
Mm-hmm.
So I think spoken language was a thing, but it had a very specific purpose, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it was easier to communicate to a large group of people in spoken language,
probably,
and maybe
Mm-hmm.
and maybe it was easier to if you're communicating over long distances. I don't know how far telepathy goes, right? But maybe telepathy is a near field function. I don't know.
I think it is.
But if you, yeah, I would agree with you. But in that case, it would make sense that you would speak if you communicate over long distances via radio, etc., etc.,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And we find that in the ancient Enuma Elish, just have a look in the ancient Sumerian and Babylonian cuneiform texts. We find these really curious expressions, and when they start talking. So yeah. So my point here is though that this war and conflict and this whole animus that we have toward each other only exists because we can't communicate accurately or perfectly. Would we be conflict free? Probably not. But if we could all let's think about this for a second, Dave. A politician can't lie. Let's say a politician can, because you're telepathic and telepathy
totally.
doesn't allow for lying.
Yeah, that's right.
Completely different world. Completely different world, right?
They'd be very careful what they thought.
That's right. So, in fact, I don't even think we would have politicians, to be honest with you.
No, I don't think we would either.
Because to be honest with you, I think, and this is really where it starts, right? Because I think in empathy, I think telepathy and empathy go hand in hand.
Mm-hmm.
I think if our children, and I think our children have latent telepathy up to a certain age. That's why they're so upset when we don't know what they want.
That's right.
But if you had telepathy and empathy from the day you're born,
Mm-hmm.
I think you would become a much different human being than the way we grow up now. If you could feel what another person feels, right?
Mm-hmm.
You probably wouldn't hurt them. You probably wouldn't be a bastard. You probably
That's
wouldn't
true.
torture them, etc. Right?
Yeah.
And it just would stop. Well, of course, I think there might always be people that have something wrong with them, but maybe they could be helped better if we did have telepathy. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I do believe that we're in this quagmire, in this situation on purpose. Someone put us in this position to make sure we don't work together, to make sure we will fight each other before we fight anyone else. No, that's right.
It's all about the escape. So I saw a very good depiction of reincarnation, and it was a short 2-minute video of a lady standing in the clouds, and there's 2 buttons, and one is to go again and the other's to exit. And it was fantastic, and a fellow arrives standing on the clouds and looks up at these buttons, go again, exit. And he looks to her, and she's staring at these buttons, and she goes, I don't know which one to push. And he goes, well, what do you think they mean? And she goes, go again. Well, that makes sense, but where does the exit take you? Is it just the end? What happens? And they go, well, I don't know. I don't know what happens. And he goes, well, maybe it's go again is like reincarnation. You get reincarnated. You don't just become alive again where we've just arrived, because clearly we're dead. And she eventually admits to herself that she wants to press the go again, and poof, she's gone. And he looks around, she's not there, and he goes, oh, go again. So he does that. And then there's a picture of a worm in the ground, and it goes, damn it. So it's very funny. And they mentioned this escape, Meki, at that point, before they pressed the button. And this debate they were having was about escaping this world, and maybe we've got to earn it. Oh, it's tremendous. I think the depiction and what they did with it was great.
I watched it. You sent it to me. Yes,
yeah,
I remember.
Yeah. And there's another one where there's a guy sitting in an office, and the guy across from him looking through the paperwork because it's the guy, not different guy, and he's seated in the chair, and he's now like a government official. This guy has to determine what happens next, and he says, "Well, you're going to have to go again." Different video. You have to go again.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Well, you're dead. Oh, am I? Oh, so the conversation is very funny, and he goes, "Well, how do you not go again? Oh, you've got to get a lot of points. How many points? Well, that doesn't really matter. You just have to do everything right." And he goes, "Well, how did you get this job?" And he goes, "Well, I did everything right. How many times you've done it? I lost count. How many times it took him to elevate." And he said he's on like the 9th level or something, and was very proud of himself, having achieved his exit. But he goes, and he refers to the documentation again and goes, "You scored 3. Right? How much did you get?" And he said, 9,000 or so, whatever it was. And he resigned himself to having to go back. It's very funny because you go back, as we've done on other shows, and you don't remember what the rules are. They're wiped from you about 4 years in, according to all of the people who have recalled past lives. You still remember them for about 4 years. And then, whoosh, they're gone. You don't remember them anymore. So, I'm a firm believer, Maggie, that reincarnation is a thing. Totally a thing.
100%. And in fact, we did a show cycle on this, and scientists that went into, psychologists, psychiatrists that went into this subject matter with the point of view of disproving it. I mean, that they wanted to just debunk it, essentially. Had to go, oh, right, now it actually is a thing. It's
something
a thing
to this, yeah.
And there's something to this, and it is really quite astounding when you think about it for a second. And these are usually like Western scientists, brought up in a Christian Judeo kind of background, and
that does not
reincarnation is not really a thing.
It's not a thing. It doesn't.
It used to, but it does. But it used to. So, but if like an Indian scientist came along and did it, then you go, yeah, well, that's your background anyway. Who cares, right?
Yeah.
But this is Westerners. And having said that, though, if you go back far enough, right, Christianity and Judaism as well as Islam do mention reincarnation, and there was a tenet of belief, certainly within the Cathars, which were the so-called heretical Christians, that believed that we are actually here. This is hell. We are in hell, by the way, and our task is to escape hell, and you do that by living the perfect life. So the people that did that in their religion were the perfecti. They owned nothing. They just went from city to city and were essentially very similar to what you would find in Southeast Asia. The monks that travel from town to town with literally that own nothing, right? So there's a lot to be said for that. And I think reincarnation is absolutely...
Mickey's video is frozen.
So reincarnation is not about learning all you can at all. It is just a mechanism by which we are kept here. Your task is to get out of here. That's your task. And it's got nothing to do with learning more and being better. It has all to do with cutting every single tie you have to this world. That's what it has to do with. You must
only there
strip
was an
yourself.
instruction manual, Mickey.
Well, there is. If you can cut every single tie to this world, if you can cut every single desire and attachment, it's probably the best word, you have a good chance of getting out. And in fact, your escape hatch, funnily enough, again in my opinion, is the pineal gland. That's why it crosses over so quickly, and that's why Dave has got a tooth.
I've got a tooth growing
in his brain. But it is fascinating because there's no escape out. We are in the universe, in the multiverse, if you will, even in this 4-dimensional construct. In my opinion, it's actually a 5-dimensional construct, and we're stuck in here. And there's no out of it. There's no out from it, if you understand. The only escape is within. What do I mean by that? Let's say you're in a video game, okay, and you're controlling the person in the video game, right? With your mouse or your keyboard. That person in the video game has no way of ever escaping that video game.
That's right.
Coming into the real world, right? Now, imagine that you could, and we will soon enough, we can transfer your consciousness into the video game, right? Argument's sake. So you've got like a interface, a neural interface, and then you're inside this virtual world, right? It doesn't matter where in the virtual world you go, you cannot get out of it, right? The only way to get out of it is to disrupt the connection.
Yeah.
Right? And this world is the same. There's nowhere we can actually physically go to escape. The escape lies within. That's the critical thing to understand. We can only escape within. Sounds crazy, right? There are actually a lot of Zen riddles that go like this, right? If your enemies beset you from the sides, and, from up and down and everywhere, where do you go? If your enemies come from you at you from all directions, where do you go? You go inside. You go inside. That's where you go. Right? And that's the solution to the Zen riddles that you might come across. The Zen koan. But it's really hard for us, of course, to accept that as a reality. Fair enough, because it goes against everything we've been taught. Right? It really does, Dave. Think about it. You've been taught, hey, have a job, have a family, have kids, have a mortgage, be a useful cog in the machine. Tell me I'm wrong.
Like all the people who will make money from me doing that, they're all the ones who have told me.
100%.
It's a self-perpetuating act, which you can never escape from.
Correct.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, the thing is this, though, right? You're caught in it from the get-go, and you need time and maybe adversity in your life to really look at yourself and just try to think about the world and your place in it. Is it all the way it should be? And not a lot of people have that leisure time or even the capacity to think outside the square, right? It's only the few that can do that, and both Dave and I stand on the to borrow an expression, we stand on the shoulders of giants, right? That have done a lot of the heavy lifting in the critical thinking that we all also so desperately need. But yeah, it's funny, right? And look at the world. I mean, conflict, blood, us versus them, lies. But the lies are obvious now. I mean, as soon as they say anything, the people on TV, right, politicians or otherwise, they're lying. It's all one giant lie, and yet here we are, still sitting down, thinking, okay, let's just go with it.
I saw some really interesting figures, which I can't remember the exact figures, but for the viewership of a TV show that runs for 3 hours, 5 days a week, was less than 80,000. And it was one of the most, formerly one of the most watched channels for news. And it is now the least trusted for news. Its competitor is only a couple of, maybe 20, 30,000 more viewership. And having lost so much of their viewership in comparison, influencers or, YouTube and, what we do, they have more credibility now. And they're not running an auto cue and they're not being told what to say by an entity that is owned by one of 2 major companies on the planet. So they are to toe the line to sell the message in a world where I never really thought we would ever get anywhere near this place, and which is 1984. I really never thought it. When I read the book at school, I never thought it was a thing. Wow, how fantastic this imagination of George Orwell, of this dystopian future which could never happen to anyone. We live in a perfectly arranged, properly run, at the time, in our little minds, a world that this was the direct contrast to, and yet here we are. And we're sliding down a slope to it coming to its natural conclusion. And did you ever think, Mackie, that George Orwell's 1984 would be an instruction manual?
Well, he was actually plugged in, right? I think he was a lot more plugged in. Same with Aldous Huxley and a few others. Mm-hmm. And I think they were privy, not that they agreed with it necessarily, but I think they were privy to some of the things that we're seeing today unfold. Now, this wasn't put in motion yesterday. This wasn't put in motion 10 years ago or 50 years ago. All of these things have been in motion for a long, long time, right? And it doesn't actually really matter who is in control, China, the US, Russia. It doesn't matter because they're steering us to the same outcome.
Yep.
They're steering us to the same outcome, which is, unfortunately, the 15-minute city. Okay, it is universally unemployment and your universally accepted stipend, like a living income from the government. You will own nothing or very little, and I can see this now in the alphas and the Gen Zs, right, where they want to minimize and have little houses and all that stuff, and now they've been brainwashed. Correct, and they've been brainwashed into this whole carbon trading thing, and you know how humans have to do this and that and the other. Look, I want to be clear here. Climate change is normal. It's been happening on our planet since it started. We've never had the same climate ever over any period of time. It's always been a change, right? And to be honest with you, I honestly don't think that the human factor is that much of a game changer, because the single biggest carbon emitter is still the almighty forest fire. Okay, and if we have a super volcanic explosion, like let's say we had another Toba or something like that,
times bigger.
That's it. We couldn't even scratch that level of emission, right? We're talking nuclear winter here for 10 years. So what is this? This is just another red herring. Should we live better? Yes. Should we produce less waste? Yes.
Totally.
Should we eat real food? Yes.
100%.
Should we plant trees and keep the oceans clean? Yes. Yes to all of that. Okay? But this whole thing that, you make generations feel guilty for climate change and other things. Look, there is something to be said for living a good life and a clean life, yes. And we shouldn't throw things away all the time. And like I said, our grandparents would be horrified by the way we use things and throw them away. Horrified. I mean, they use things for life.
That's right.
Can you imagine that, Dave?
Actually, hand-me-down.
For life.
Hand-me-down.
Yes, yes. Exactly. 100%. Hand-me-downs. But that means you have to have quality. Our civilization has moved in such a direction that we now deliberately produce low-quality goods that will fail, so you have to buy more. Why? Because we falsely believe that capitalism will forever produce profits. It's this whole capitalism, continuous profits, continuous growth, that's what's killing us.
That's right.
That's what's killing us. Right? So, anyway.
The ABC did a story, with 1 minute left, UNICEF finds more obese children malnourished, reigniting junk food tax debate. And this is coming to the end of the 1984 discussion, where they make food inaccessible. All food inaccessible. And I see no end to this story. We're starting to discover all of the preservatives were always bad for you, but they never told us.
Yeah.
So
it's insane.
Fresh food tax.
It's actually insane.
Yeah, all of it is insane. So now they want to make all the foods too expensive to afford, and that's going to certainly get us to the 500 million population if no one can afford food, even where we make an excess of food.
Yeah. 100%. Oh, by the way, sorry, Comet is absolutely right. Israel literally means the one who struggles or fights with God. That's what Israel means, literally. And correct, there was never actually a land called Israel per se. It was called Samaria or Palestine, even under Roman occupation. And that's the music. So hey, thanks for listening to Platos Cave. Thank you for the chat, for the contribution. Really appreciate it. Didn't have much time today to look at it. Apologies, but we'll do better on Thursday. Donate if you can. Like, subscribe if you see us out in the wild. But most of all, Dave,
be safe.